a book here. It's called the Jesus Storybook Bible. And basically, what this is a very special Bible, and what it does is it tells the Bible stories, but then it relates them all back to who? To Jesus. So it talks about all the Old Testament stories and all the New Testament stories, and it shows how they all connect to Jesus. And today I want to read to you a story, and there should be pictures on the overhead. So if you can't quite see the overhead, you need to kind of maybe get up on your knees so you can see it. But I'm going to read to you the story of Joseph. How many of you remember the story of Joseph and his wonderful many-colored coat and his brothers? Oh, good. Some of you do, and some of you don't. Great. We're going to get to learn about these. Okay, this is called The Forgiving Prince. Jacob had 12 sons, but of all his sons, Joseph was his favorite. Your mom and dads have a favorite? Is it you? Yeah? Everybody should be saying yes, because everyone is their favorite. Everyone is their parents' favorite. But Jacob chose one as his favorite, not all 12. And that's going to cause problems. One day, Jacob gave Joseph a splendid new robe. It was beautiful and rich with all the colors of the rainbow. But it made Joseph's brothers jealous. They wanted rich rainbow robes too. Then, to make matters worse, Joseph kept having these special dreams. I dreamed I was the greatest. I was king. Joseph told his brothers, and you all bowed to me. Now, I'm sure as you know, even if Joseph didn't, that telling your brothers things like that isn't a very good idea. Joseph's brothers hated him even more. They wanted to kill Joseph and his dreams. And one day, that's exactly what they tried to do. They tore Joseph's rainbow robe off of him and sold him to slave traders for 20 pieces of silver. The traders took Joseph to Egypt and made him into a slave. The brothers went home and lied to their father, telling him that Joseph was dead. That's the end of the dreamer, they thought. But they were wrong. God had a magnificent dream for Joseph's life. And even when it looked like everything had gone wrong, God would use it all to help make the dream come true. God would use everything that was happening to Joseph to do something good. Meanwhile, though things were not looking good for Joseph in Egypt, he was far from home and far from his dad. Then he got blamed for something he didn't do. And even though he hadn't done anything wrong, he was punished and thrown into jail. But God had not left Joseph. One night, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had a scary dream. Do any of you ever have scary dreams? No? That's good. You did? Yeah, sometimes I have scary dreams. The king of Egypt, called Pharaoh, had a very scary dream. He had a nightmare. And it was about thin cows gobbling up fat cows. What on earth did that mean? He didn't know, but Joseph was a dream expert. So Pharaoh sent for him. Joseph said, it means that famine is coming. Do you know what famine is? Famine means there's not very much food to eat. It means everybody's very hungry. There's not enough food for everybody. There won't be enough food, Joseph said. Pharaoh was so pleased by Joseph's skill that he immediately took Joseph out of jail and made him a prince. Now back home, Joseph's brothers had run out of food and everyone was hungry. God's special family was in danger. If they didn't get food soon, they would starve to death. So Joseph's brothers traveled to Egypt to buy food. They came and knelt and bowed down before a new prince. His brothers didn't know it, but that was Joseph. But Joseph knew who they were, and Joseph's dream, the one about his brothers bowing down to him, was coming true. It's me, he cried. When they saw it was Joseph, his brothers were afraid. They had done something very bad to Joseph. They had sinned, and they knew it. And now, Joseph would certainly punish them. But Joseph looked at his brothers, and his eyes filled with tears. Even though his brothers had hurt him and hated him and wanted him dead, in spite of everything, he couldn't stop loving them. His heart, which they had broken, filled up with love, and Joseph forgave them. Joseph threw his arms around them. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Behind what you were doing, underneath everything that was happening, God was doing something good. God was making everything right again." Joseph didn't punish his brothers, even though he could. He rescued them. He brought God's special family to live safely with him in Egypt. One day, God would send another prince, a young prince whose heart would break. Like Joseph, he would leave his home and his father. His brothers would hate him and want him dead. He would be sold for pieces of silver. He would be punished, even though he had done nothing wrong. But God would use everything that happened to that young prince, even the bad things, to do something good, to forgive the sins of the world. Who was that prince? Who was it? Who was it? Jesus. Joseph was the first prince. Jesus was the second. And Jesus came to do something good for his brothers and his sisters. And that's us. And we can thank God for that. Will you pray with me? Dear Jesus, thank you for leaving your home and for leaving your father and coming to this earth, even though you knew people would hate you and kill you. You did it for us because you loved us, and we give you thanks, and we love you back.